What's the status, Rex?
Master Kenobi is managing to keep them at bay with his lecture, but it's only a matter of time before they figure out a way to cancel out the noise.
If only I could be debating it with him.
And furthermore, it's important to note that we do not, in fact, steal babies and then raise them as Jedi. However, were we to do so, this would be completely morally defensible. Indeed, I would go further. If the Force willed it, then it would be a great blessing for those children to be taken. For then, they would be in the temple and acting in direct accordance with the will of the Force. Consider.
What an intellectual feast we're missing out on.
I know Mundi has been trying to make it mandatory, but ever since that footage of your, work in the Hutt torture chambers was leaked, there's no way the Senate will ever allow you and Master Kenobi to lecture the enemy at the same time.
That 5-second clip was completely out of context. I was simply explaining the nature of time as a construct of sapient beings and nature cooperating, as outlined in the philosophy of the ancient Masasi. According to the work of the Nautilon scholar Exu Leotis, they held a metaphysics with what he described as embedded identity at its center, in which both time—
They clawed their ears off, then gouged out their eyes for fear they might still understand you by lip reading.
Unusual, certainly, but doubtless it was behavior they'd learned by being captive in Jabba's torture chambers for such a tragic length of time. If you're familiar with schema therapy, developed by the Rhodian psychologist Thinko Ifong, then you might have heard of punitiveness schema. My hypothesis is, put simply, that the unspeakable torture and trauma those poor prisoners suffered functionally regressed and inflicted an early maladaptive schema on them, namely the aforementioned. Simply put, those poor prisoners had come to believe that all mistakes deserve severe punishment. After all, what bigger mistake could there be than that which landed them in a Hutt torture chamber? And doubtless, they felt their inability to truly appreciate my lecture made them worthy of that which they self-inflicted.
I was talking about the senators.
Oh. What did the prisoners do?
Mostly smash their skulls, or equivalent, into the walls in a desperate attempt to acquire anterograde amnesia, so as to ensure your lecture could never enter their long-term memory.
Tragic to think there are those who believe they deserve as harsh a punishment as to never remember my academic speeches.
Given that, and you know I wouldn't really describe myself as a scholar, but
Nonsense, Rex. Our conversation on the Hutt versus non-Hutt interpretation within the folly school of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise was most stimulating.
With all due respect, sir, everyone has heard the tragedy. I'm not sure having an opinion on which interpretation of the folly school holds validity is the mark of a scholar, so much as the distinguishing feature between a sapient being and a piece of bantha fod fur. Anyway, sir, how did the youngling get here? She didn't just fly in.
First off, I traveled here. I have a constitutional right to travel in a conveyance. I was not transporting paying passengers or commercial goods and thus do not need a license of any kind. Second, I am no youngling. Rather, I'm a freelance mercenary currently serving as Master Skywalker's Padawan. I make this distinction as it is this promotion that has earned me a 50% increase in the base rate of my pay, and consequently allows a proportionate increase in any bonuses thereafter.
So, the Jedi use child soldiers.
We've already discussed it, and we all agree it's completely moral.
We do?
So I'm told—
Couldn't the droids simply switch off their audio receptors and then advance?
They'd be leaving themselves dangerously vulnerable to counterattack. While they consider this a superior option to listening to Master Kenobi, it's a marginal thing.
baffling that so many of these droids have some kind of fatal glitch that causes them to spontaneously shoot themselves repeatedly once you begin talking to them about such fascinating matters.
Yes, sir. It's just the droids that have this glitch.
However, what's truly important here is that Ahsoka needs to learn the ropes.
The ropes of being a child soldier, or the ropes of how best to tie a noose while listening to one of your lectures?
I told you, it's simply that they all suddenly decided to build a gym at that moment. Anyway, I thought, who better to teach a 14-year-old Padawan than a 10-year-old captain?
I guess that's logically consistent. Come along, Ahsoka. Let's wander around this war zone. Are you familiar with the Chiss thinker Hever Zansu Infus? He wrote a fascinating work called The Art of Star Wars. Perhaps we can discuss it a little.